Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here. Today we're going to be discussing some really heat sets in the SSOU metagame, some things that I feel is underrated, or maybe things that you haven't quite tried out yet, but in my opinion are definitely worth trying out. I'm going to get into all the sets and why. And I think it's going to be a little fun, chill video. Admittedly, I've been a little busy and overwhelmed the last couple of days because I had to get the suspect up, I'm dealing with a lot of various tournaments, and on top of that, I want to maintain the channel, so getting a video up every day has been something that's been a bit more challenging this week, and I wanted to get this video up all week, and I'll finally have the opportunity after getting the viability rankings up, doing metagame Monday, doing the usage stats, and finally the suspect. It's just been kind of a marathon week, so this is a bit more of a chill side video. It doesn't necessarily pertain to the suspect tested viability rankings. It's just things that I think are cool and underrated in the metagame, and here is why. First one's going to be Giganta Impact Kartana. Now, it's something you saw last generation on the Z sets on occasion, with Kartana running Normalium Z, letting it get a kill on things like Tornadus T, Zapdos, potentially from bulky grass types like Tangrowth after a little chip at +2 attack, which was great because you didn't have to take the recharge turn. However, in my opinion, this generation, it sometimes can be worth taking that recharge turn in return for getting that Giga Impact neutral hit on things like Zapdos, Moltres, Buzzwole, you kill +4, Tornadus T, etc. And oftentimes it's because if you use Kartana on more offensive teams, you're going to be seeing it with Pokemon like Urshifu or ground types like Garchomp and Landorus T. When you go down list, there are other things as well. You might see it with, say, Rillaboom, another grass type, or Urshifu Rapid. And a lot of these Pokemon really want the Zapdos, the Moltres, the Tangrowth, the Buzzwole Pokemon to be removed. And even if that requires just trading Kartana's life for that, that's a worthwhile trade because that opens the floodgates. Oftentimes when you're playing against dollar balance teams and they lose one Pokemon, be it, a physical or special wall, and you have Pokemon that can abuse that Pokemon going down, those teams just completely crumble afterwards so long as you have enough speed control on board and ability to maneuver that Pokemon in. And the fact of the matter is that these type of trade-oriented sequences, these sets that are meant to lure something in return for, trading their life, actually can be very, very practical in those scenarios if you look at how the games progress. Moreover, let's say hypothetically, I bring in my Kartana on, say, Clefable or a Blissey on turn 1. And neither of them, wants to risk dying to a Smart Strike or a Sacred Sword, or just taking a lot of health in return, and they can't kill me. Blissey doesn't have Flamethrower, nor does Clefable in this scenario. I click Swords Dance, and they go to their Zapdos. Now, I have, a Landorus T, and an Urshifu, and a Rillaboom, or two of those three in the back. All those Pokemon want Zapdos dead or very much weakened. I go for a +2 Giga Impact, and all of a sudden the Zapdos is dead, and they're forced to go to something that can revenge kill me because I have a +3 attack after Beast Boost Kartana, so they gotta kill me in that next turn because I'm pretty fast, so they don't really get much. The most they could do to abuse this would likely be getting a sub up with a Spectre, and presumably that type of team like that has multiple priority moves and a Ghost Resist like Urshifu, so it could at most get one kill out of that in return, and it's still a favorable trade for you. Moreover, let's say you're facing something like a Buzzwole, which not only can hard counter most Kartana, but also can hard counter Urshifu, hard counter the Swords Dance grounds. Let's say you go for Swords Dance as it switches in. Now, Drain Punch is doing about 70 to 75% to you, and they still don't run close combat, they still run Drain Punch, keep that in mind. So you go for a second Swords Dance, and they're like, okay, I could live a +4 Life Orb Smart Strike, which they always can. I could live, +4 pretty much anything but Giga Impact. Giga Impact, even if their max defense is doing like 97 or something min damage, it's always going to kill. A lot of them don't run max defense because speed is invested in that, therefore the min damage is like 105 or 104% from +4 Life Orb Giga Impact on those sets. And all in all, Kartana is just a complete nuke. Getting that trade, forcing that trade, is even more important because if you're low with Kartana already, you're not going to need it. It's just going to be fodder because odds are you're going to want a Swords Dance to sleep with it. You can't get that Swords Dance for Kartana's low and taking Life Orb damage and so on and so forth. So, moreover, being able to force a trade like that, or a trade like on Zapdos or Moltres, Pokemon that normally could come in and kill you in one shot whereas you can't kill them, being able to completely eliminate them in the game, make sure there's no chance they recover, or revenge kill something later, is so huge. And all in all, I think that's really an interesting selling point about Kartana, especially because just with Swords Dance Leaf Blade knockoff, you're able to function super well regardless. Look at the things that you really miss out on in hitting Sacred Sword with. Heatran dies to a +2 Life Orb knockoff after Stealth Rock every single time. And if it's an offensive Heatran, you don't even need the Stealth Rock. +2 Life Orb knockoff kills it regardless. Ferrothorn, what's Ferrothorn going to do to you? The only way this backfires is if it's stunned away to Ferrothorn. And even then, it's just no big deal. They've stopped running Body Press almost always. They'll Gyro Bomb, Power Whip, and you could Swords Dance and then +2 knockoff 2 kills or +4 knockoff one-shots it. So you don't really need Sacred Sword for that. What do you really need Sacred Sword? Maybe opposing Kartana and Hydreigon. That's about it. I mean, Melmetal is a good chance of living +2 regardless. If they're not running Superpowers, it's not a big deal. And Melmetal is very easy to chip down. Magearna, offensive Magearna is dying to a +4 anyway, and it lives a +2 Sacred Sword anyway. I mean, you go down the list, there are a couple things. Again, it's really just Heatran at full health without rocks up with max HP, Sword of Melmetal, and Hydreigon that's above, say, 75%. That's it. Otherwise, you really don't need Sacred Sword. Knockoff is hitting so many things super hard. I mean, a +2, especially defensive Corviknight, taking 75-80%. Physical defensive Skarmory can get 2 killed after Stealth Rock, etc. I mean, the fact of the matter is that this coverage is almost foolproof, and Giga Impact allowing for the trade sequences is huge. Giga Impact Kartana is a beast in this metagame. It works so well on offensive teams when you pair it with other physical attackers, especially ones that appreciate those things, Lord. And all in all, this video is a huge sell. I would really try it out. I guarantee you'd use it. And personally, I'm using it for my ladder X, I'm using it for some other stuff, so I'm really excited for you guys to try it out as well. Okay, next up we have an offensive Zapdos with U-Turn over Volt Switch or Heatwave. I think this set is super cool because a lot of times you face this little, I guess you call it a mind game where you don't want to click the electric move in the ground type, but you don't want to necessarily risk Hurricane missing against something that might be weakened or something that might take super effective damage from an electric move. And moreover, in those scenarios, what you can do is if you pair your Zapdos with something like a strong Grass type or a fast Dragon type or Spectre, whatever it is, you could click U-Turn in those situations and it's a risk-free move. You don't have to risk Hurricane, you get in your more offensive Pokemon and it works super well. And if you say want to go for an electric move, all of a sudden it doesn't have to be Volt Switch, it's Discharge, so you don't have to switch out, which means you could break things like Toxapex and Slowbro much easier. Hurricane, also with this investment, by the way, max special attack, always 2 Kyos, a max physical defense, 4 special defense, leftover is Clefable from full health if it hits twice, which is super important. Discharge is always 2 Kyos special defensive Toxapex as well, which is cool. You spread Paralysis, and then you have the chance to confuse, chance to U-turn and pivot around. And overall, the fact you're running U-turn over Volt Switch opens up so many mid-grounds. And what you guys might not know is a mid-ground. A mid-ground is a play where you know that if you go for one play or another, they may be more extreme. For example, let's say they have a weakened Slowbro out against a Zapdos. Now, I can go for a Hurricane, predicting them to go to their Garchomp or their Landorus or whatever ground type they may have. And that's great. However, if I miss Hurricane on them switching that, or I risk that Hurricane against a Slowbro and I miss and they heal up or they teleport out, then all of a sudden I've accomplished nothing. If I go for Discharge, I make sure that I kill the Slowbro, but I don't do anything if they go to that Garchomp or Landorus T. The mid-ground play would be going for U-turn, because A, there might be a chance to get killed the weakened Slowbro, but even if it doesn't, the worst case scenario is you still potentially can get switch initiative by going something that's favorable against it and what it can switch into. Or they go to that Garchomp, and you don't have to risk missing Hurricane, you could just get yourself a favorable matchup regardless of that by going Hurricane, and you get a little chip into it. Overall, not having to run Volt Switch and rely on it is something that Tapu Koko did a lot last generation. It ran Thunderbolt, Hidden Power Ice, Roost, and U-turn on a lot of sets with Shukaberry, or Electrium Z, or Magnet, or even Lumberry at times. And those sets, in my opinion, were super underrated. Why? Because you are able to pivot in against ground types. And you don't even beat every ground type. For example, without Heatwave, you're not able to necessarily beat things like Excadrill. And you can't fit Heatwave onto a set like this. You really can't. Especially because you want to have that momentum against things like Blissey, and specially defensive Clefable, and even potentially special defensive Powdon or AV Magearna. You want to be able to really pivot around them. And it's important getting a U-turn against those things because it could put you in super favorable position. You could bring in, your Urshifu, your Rillaboom, your Cinderace, and really threaten those more especially defensively oriented Pokemon. And overall, cores with Zapdos plus a hard physical hitter make it so that you have a ton of offensive momentum and a strong offensive backbone on more balanced and bulky offensive teams. And also, this Zapdos is not useless defensively. Against things like Buzzwole, against things like Excadrill, Ferrothorn, even Kartana, you're able to potentially wall them in a temporary scenario. You could even tank any one hit from Pheromosa besides Choice Band Triple Axle, which A, has a chance of missing, B, is going to almost always leave you in status, and you also counter Nasty Plot Tornadus T, which is super cool because that Pokemon's getting more and more common. It's pretty well against Rillaboom, although 2 Choice Band Woodhammers can kill this set, that's worth noting. Yeah, you also even to always live even a modest Needle King, Life Orb, Sheer Force, Ice Beam, and even an Adamant Life Orb Pyro Ball from Cinderace as well. So, yeah, there still has decent natural bulk. I mean, if you look at it, 90, 85, 90 bulk is still above average in the OU metagame, especially with near max investment HP. The EV spread allows you to outrun things like Modest T-Tran, a plus speed Magearna, all Crawdon, uninvested base 100, max speed Bisharp, etc. So there's plenty of room there. And the max special attack yet lets you 2 kill Clefable with Hurricane, but also the damage output's huge against things like Toxapex. Special defense T-Tran doesn't even like taking repeated discharges. Overall, it's just really strong and underrated in my opinion. So, yeah, no, I definitely would advise trying out Zapdos. this set in particular. Next up, we have a really cool and situationally efficient Heatran. So the idea is a lot of teams run Magma Storm plus Earth Power on Heatran with Taunt to trap things like Toxapex and Blissey. Those Pokemon normally will be able to tank the special attacks that Heatran has. However, if it's trapped with Magma Storm, it's taking damage each turn, which especially would be important since Blissey does run leftovers, and oftentimes Toxapex is Rocky Helmet or gets knocked off or burnt, so the residuals really add up. B, you could taunt them so that they can't click Soft Boil to recover respectively. And C, over time, you could trap them. You could win that 1v1. You're able to tank multiple Scalds or multiple Seismic Tosses, and between taking the Magma Storm damage plus, you're taking the Magma Storm damage when they taunt and you try to recover, and then eventually taking more damage from either Magma Storm or Earth Power if you're Toxapex, then it's going to lose the 1v1 once it takes any chip beforehand. And that's super important, it's super common, and that's why Heatran pairs so nicely with other special attackers, because it can get those things out of the way. However, what is a bit less, a bit less practical, you could say, is that you have to run Magma Storm over Lava Plume, which means that you don't get the chance to burn things. You don't get more of a reliable Fire-type move with more than 8 PP and more than 75 accuracy, which can be a bummer if I'm facing something like a Magearna or an Excadrill or a Ferrothorn, where I want to get that Fire attack up and I want to get that kill without risking missing, being able to do nothing that turn and then potentially dying or losing momentum in the following turn. You're letting them set up spikes if it's a Ferrothorn and so on and so forth. This set not only has the best of both worlds, Magma Storm and Lava Plume, but on top of that, what's really cool is when you reveal Lava Plume on your Heatran, they always think Toxapex is safe. Blissey is safe. Oh my god, I can go to these Pokemon. Hell, I can go to anything that mine's being trapped normally. I can go to all those Pokemon. All of a sudden, there are a ton of new checks and counters, and all of a sudden, you can reveal Magma Storm later in the game once you've lured them into that false sense of security. Hell, against Clefable, it's important too, because Clefable is scared of being trapped by Magma Storm, but otherwise it would try to go for a knockoff against you. It would try and, go and heal up if you don't have Taunt and Scout for that. But now, you go for Lava Plume early in the game, the Clefable's like, okay, I'm fine staying in. The Blissey's like, okay, I'm fine staying in, I wall it. Toxic's like, okay, I can recover up, I can get a knockoff off and then regenerate her out. That's fine. But you use Magma Storm after you reveal Lava Plume, you lure them into that false insecurity, and then they're trapped. They lose their Blissey, they lose their Clefable, they lose their Toxapex, and all of a sudden, the stall team or the balance team completely falls apart. It gets absolutely shattered by this set if it's accurate, and that's crazy. So not only do you get both fire moves, but also on top of that, you can trap those Pokemon unexpectedly. And I prefer this spread because this spread allows you to outrun things like Choice Band Tyranitar and Max Speed Aeroslash, Max Speed Magnezone without plus speed nature, of course. Uninvested Landorus and Excadrill too, if you ever come to play with those, and most Magearna. But you can also run a bit more speed to outrun a Choice Specs Magearna. You can run a more specially defensive spread. You don't really need the special attack investment. It's just nice for specially defensive Toxapex and Blissey from higher amounts of health. But it's totally your call. The main thing that I worry about with this spread is that you see Lava Plume has a lot of special attack investment and notice you're more offensive and play more consciously around it. But even then, if you reveal Lava Plume, you're not going to expect Magma Storm. So I think it's a really amazing dynamic, and being able to trap those Pokemon unexpectedly can go such a long way towards breaking through teams. But the spread you can be versatile with. You can definitely strange up the spread. This spread has to change though. This is a Life Orb, Focus Blast, Stored Power, Shift Gear, Combine, Magearna, the most hard-hitting double dancer in the tier arguably. Once you get a couple boosts to store up. Focus Blast, a +1 with Life Orbs, able to kill Blissey, and one-shot Heatran after Stealth Rock almost always, so that's a really cool dynamic. But also, what's good about this and makes it so much better than other stored power sets on more, directly offensive teams, like on Hyper Offense, in my opinion, is that you're able to break through Toxapex. Because normally Toxapex just haze through stored powers at, what's +1/+1, or +2 speed, +1 attack, because it just doesn't do enough. But with Life Orb, you're 2 killing it no matter which boost you get, always, even especially defensive, and that's absolutely huge. And it also makes snowballing out of control, so easy, because Life Orb stored power with, some boost after you get the special attack boost from Soul Heart is just so ridiculously strong. It gets to the point that, I've been able to beat things like, cores with specially defensive feature and plus Blissey plus Toxapex, which normally no way I'm sleeping with Magearna with that. But with the Life Orb boost, you're able to. And what's big about this is you use this more on hyper offensive teams that want to break through those things. So let's say, you're only able to get 2 kills because they get some chip on you before and you're taking Life Orb. That's fine, because then all of a sudden, almost always their checks of things like Spectre and Urshifu are completely out of the picture now because they have to sacrifice them to check the unexpected power of the Life Orb Magearna. And it just goes so hand in hand well with those type of Pokemon. And yes, it is reliant on hitting Focus Blast, just like the Zapdos is reliant on hitting Hurricane, and the Heatran is reliant on hitting Magma Storm. I totally understand why people would be worried about that. Don't get me wrong at all, but when it hits, and when it's used. People don't expect it. It hits so hard, and in my opinion, it's one of the most underrated variants of Magirin in the metagame. And in my opinion, people are like, oh no, the Draining Kiss and power sets with Iron Defenses. No, those sets are actually kind of bad in my opinion. They get there are so many things that can wall those sets, and also they need so many turns to actually be strong. And the metagame is so proactive right now, as you saw, from the usage stats. 12 of the top 11 of the top 15 Pokemon are more offensive, more proactive Pokemon. You don't have the room for that in a more balanced metagame, yes. But this one hits so directly hard, it only really needs 1 or 2 turns of setup, and then all of a sudden it's just completely scaling out of control. And that's super possible now. That's much more possible than, I'm going to get 5 free turns. No, that's not possible. So, yeah, I think this is a more blunt offensive approach with the Shift Gear Magirin, and I really like it in the metagame as it stands. And last but not least, we also have a bit of a play on a standard set. So people have been using Tank Chomp for a long time now. The Rocky Helmet Rough Skin set. But what I think is really cool right now, especially so long as we see Pheromosa in the tier, is running Endure as the last slot over Flamethrower or Dragon Tail, or potentially even dropping Toxic for Flamethrower or Dragon Tail, and just Stealth Rock, Earthquake Endure with a more defensive Rocky Helmet Garchomp, because you're able to endure them. So you can not only scout what, say, something like Pheromosa would do. Let's say you're at 25% and it wants to kill you with U-turn or close combat. Okay, I go for Endure. I see what move it's locking into, if it's Choice Banded, or regardless, I make it take Rough Skin plus Rocky Helmet, to more than 25% damage, and then it has to do the same exact thing to kill me. And if it's triple axle, it's going to take 1,000,000 damage. It might even basically be a trade. So all of a sudden, you've already gotten your rocks up, maybe threatened or tripled some other things with Garchomp, and then you're doing an OT. You're putting an OT. You're getting so much damage against something like a Choice Band Rillaboom. Oh my God! If it's locked in a Woodhammer, you Rough Skin Endure. It's taking 1,000,000 damage, and I think Endure is a really cool concept on it. It's something that we've seen before in Generation 6 and 7 surface here and there, but I think right now might be its peak, just because of all the physical attacks used in the metagame that are super boosted and can potentially tank out a Garchomp, 40-50%, when normally that wouldn't be the case in the metagame. But now, with Urshifu, with Pheromosa in the tier, you're seeing that happen more and more. But if you endure those things, they're taking so much damage where they can't switch in to begin with afterwards, which is huge. You're really doing a service to your fellow teammates. And in my eyes, that's a really cool and underrated dynamic, part of how this Garchomp plays in my eyes. So yeah, these are 5 Pokemon that are underrated in the metagame. I also want to highlight one item that, in my opinion, is underrated. I'm just going to random Pokemon that can use it. And that's a Jetpack. In my opinion, if you pair a Jetpack with moves like Draco Meteor, Leaf Storm, Overheat, Close Combat, it's really cool. Obviously, you can't use all these on Latios. Don't try and pull up with a Draco Meteor, Leaf Storm, Overheat, Close Combat Latios, because the team validator will not allow for that whatsoever. And for what it's worth, this is obviously not a team, but rather 5 separate sets and 1 separate idea. So I would try and use these on your own individual teams, not all together, of course. But a Jetpack itself is a really cool item. Getting off, a Draco Meteor off stab, or a Leaf Storm Overheat Close Combat off stab, and then getting right out of there and getting to, say your Pokemon take advantage of that. All of a sudden, I can go to my Regenerator Pokemon and, I can just regen out. But no, because now all of a sudden, you could bring in the Pokemon that are uses that Pokemon being weakened, and they can't regen out because they're already in. It's like a really crazy dynamic that a Jetpack enables, and I think we should find more usage of it in the metagame. I've tried on a couple things, and I'm still trying to optimize it, but in my opinion, a Jetpack is definitely something that we need to toy with more in a competitive environment. But yeah, what do you guys think of the metagame as it stands? I'm really curious to see what your opinions are. And also, what do you think of these sets, and what sets do you think are underrated? I think there's a ton to play with in the metagame right now. There's a ton of room for innovation and creativity. There's a ton of room for more offensive, proactive stuff, as well as potentially more balanced stuff as well. And I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. But yeah, it's just a nice Saturday video. I'm going to try and get a couple videos out Sunday, Monday. It'll be super fun. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to comment those thoughts down below. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more, subscribe to the channel, guys. We're rushing the 6,000 mark. Let's get there ASAP, way before the year ends, and then let's shoot for 7,000 after that. In addition to that, thank you guys so much for all the support lately. It's been amazing. Join the Discord or follow my Twitter if you guys want to see more. And yeah, all right. Have a great day, guys. Oh, and stay safe, of course. Everyone stay safe. Yeah, all right. Bye, guys.